On today's episode of Bet Bath & Beyond, Andy and Ian talk fantasy football for pretty much the whole episode. Also, we are going to be moving our podcast to once a week starting very shortly in the next upcoming week. We just have another podcast coming out that's going to be about fantasy football specifically. Bet Bath & Beyond is not going anywhere. It is going to be once a week, and it will still be out on Fridays. You're not going to want to miss this.
3, 2, 1,
Go.
I am Ian Peacock.
And I am Andy Heidemann, and I hate sports betting.
No matter what you say, I'm betting 100 on it tonight.
Welcome to Bet Bath & Beyond.
Brought to you by B3T Sports.
.com, baby.
What day is it today?
Today is, I don't know, Andrew, you tell me what day it is.
It's a Saturday. We are pre-recording. This is our first ever.
We're gonna tell the people, so we're actually gonna tell the people.
They got it, because if something major happens, like if we're gonna talk fantasy football, it's important because this is a week in advance. Like, what if somebody breaks their femur? I mean, they gotta know.
Yeah, like Christian McCaffrey.
That would be super sad. All right, so we're recording this. We're on vacation actually. August 26th through that whole week. It'll be the first time we had not.
You're
recorded.
on vacation. I'm
on vacation. I'm out in the middle of the woods, and I can't record the podcast. So for the first time ever, over a year, we're going to not record on the days, and we're going to pre-record, and we'll still be releasing on the same schedule. You're not going to miss any content, but it might not be as up-to-date as usually possible. But again, I'm letting you know now.
It's just a week. We've done it before.
Well, yeah, but like
holidays, like Thanksgiving and Christmas, we'll record. But this is the first time we've ever recorded this far out in advance, which should actually go as a +1 to our organizational skills.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're completely all put together. We have we've never missed a day in over a year.
We'll never miss a day. No. We'll never miss a day. We will always put out. For the rest of our lives, I don't fucking care if me and Andy hate each other and are no longer friends. We will continue to force ourselves to put out at least 2 podcasts a week, Tuesday and Friday. That's how it works.
It's going to be a little bit shorter. Like I said, we are looking at, I believe, just fantasy football today. We've got 2 articles up on the site.
We're going to argue. We're just going to argue.
There are 2 articles up on the site about PPR fantasy wide receivers and PPR fantasy running backs and their rankings and where you should draft them and who you should reach for and who you shouldn't reach for. And we're going to kind of get into, do you want to start with running backs or wide receivers, you think?
Yeah, well, let's start with wide receivers. I want to start with wide receivers. That was the first article that you posted on B3T Sports.
Yep.
So let's go over that. Okay. Hopefully most of you have not drafted your fantasy team because 1, you're stupid. So many things could happen.
So much can happen.
Okay. So much can happen. You want to draft. Yeah. And Deion Lewis retired. What if you drafted Deion Lewis on your team?
If you drafted Deion Lewis, you're an idiot. Oh, I'm blurry. I'll fix it.
Put the hand up. Refocus.
I fixed it.
Refocus.
Okay, so number 12. So these are, I've got, if you want to read the article, b3tsports.com, obviously. But I have a full top 48 list in this article, but I really only highlight the top 12. These are the guys that I think are going to be finishing at that top 12 spot. It's all focused on PPR format, which stands for points per reception, just a different kind of format. It's becoming quickly the standard in fantasy football.
It already is. It already is. It should be the standard.
I agree. I personally think that a lot of people, super flex is also starting to slip into that category. A lot of people are wanting to be like, I want to flex a quarterback in the super flex spot and run 2 QB leagues. I used to not like it all that much. However, it keeps people from like, it makes the QB position matter more to have to, it's the most important position in football. I'm slowly getting to that point. Superflex today is PPR of yesterday. It's eventually it's going to be the standard. But anyway, number 12 on our list here, we have Scary Terry McLaurin. Last year he was nuts. He had 134 targets with garbage QBs. He caught 87 of them, over 1,000 yards.
Garbage QBs. Oh my God. Are you ignoring Alex Smith's comeback player of the year?
Listen, he was great, and I was glad that he got to play. But he was not
I was
Alex
worried for
Smith.
him. I was worried for him.
So was his wife. Do you ever see her in the stands?
Put an image of his wife, just a still photo of his wife, just all clenched up tight, like a fucking, like she's gonna create a diamond. That's how
she's so scared.
Tight she is,
and she should be, because I mean, like,
he almost died. He almost died.
Okay, so this is the beginning of the list. Top 12. He scored. He was number 20 last year, again with garbage QB play. I think that he could definitely slip into the top 12. It is a little scary because he is talented. Everyone knows it. He is the best wide receiver on his team, but he hasn't finished top 12 yet in either of his first 2 years. And it's kind of scary sometimes to say, yeah, this guy who's never done it will eventually do it. But
he's got to, I am also a believer. We're not going to argue too much on this one. One, because I have him on my dynasty team, and I've been very pleased with him. Look, he is on the Washington football team. Okay. So that should be literally the biggest asterisk disclaimer. He didn't finish top 12 yet, but he's on one of the worst teams in the NFL. And yes, I made a joke about Alex Smith, but their quarterbacks have been awful. Dwayne Haskins is a joke. Alex Smith obviously had toothpicks. He has toothpicks for legs. And who was the other guy that I don't even remember his name that played in the playoffs?
Heineke.
Yeah, Heineken, of course. Man. He has not had any solid quarterbacks to really throw to him. He just needs to get his touchdown ratio up. His touchdowns per season, he only had 4 last year. I mean, if he doubles that, he'd probably be in the top 12.
Oh yeah, I think he would definitely be in the top 12. Touchdowns are super important, and again, Ryan Fitzpatrick loves to sling it, so I'm excited for him. I'm excited for this season. All right, number 11, we're moving to Allen Robinson. Plays for the Bears, 150 targets. That alone in PPR puts him above a lot of guys. I mean, volume in PPR is insane. He caught 102 of those, over 1,200 yards. Similarly, only 6 touchdowns. I say only. You can be a top wide receiver without touchdowns. I mean, look at Julio Jones for years and years and years. That dude would always put up tons of catches, tons of yards.
Yeah, tons of yards.
Only like 2 to 4 touchdowns, and he was still always extremely relevant. So it can be done. And Allen Robinson is playing with arguably his best quarterback he's ever played with, no matter what, if it's Andy Dalton or if it's Justin Fields. I mean, isn't that insane?
Well, okay, hold on. We do not know that. We have no idea. Actually, I'm pretty sure the Bears play today. So this will be kind of the first time we see Fields in action. We have no idea how he's going to play. Okay? No idea.
That's totally fair. I'm still going to call my shot and say no matter which one of them is starting, he will be the best quarterback that Allen Robinson is going to play with.
I don't know about that. Nick Foles.
It's not Nick Foles. It's not Mitchell Trubisky. And it's not Blake Bortles.
No, it's not.
So, I mean.
This is another one where, in spite of the quarterback, he has continued to flourish. He was ranked number 9 last year in wide receivers for fantasy. He had over 1,200 yards of receiving. So, I'm not going to argue with this pick either. He deserves to be in the top 12. And if he actually has a competent quarterback, and if Fields or Dalton can perform just a hair better than Mitchell Trubisky and Nick Foles, he's going to have another successful season.
We got Keenan Allen coming in at 10, another plus 130 target guy.
He's old.
That's gold. He's older. I think that he finished 14 last year. He had 8 touchdowns. If he maintains what he did last year, Herbert is only going to be better, and Herbert was a stud last year. I think that that's very good for them. They don't really have another. They have Mike Williams, but other than that, they got rid of Hunter Henry, their stud tight end. I think that not a lot's going to change for Keenan Allen, and for him, it's all going to just be about getting those yards up a little bit. I mean, again, you caught the ball 100 times. That's phenomenal. You're gonna have to do a little bit more with it after the catch. Touchdowns are great. Just be a little bit more efficient.
He finished with less than 1,000 yards, even being the 5th most targeted wide receiver in the game last year.
Mm-hmm. And that's like, I don't know. I don't remember off the top of my head like what his deal was with that. If he was just getting, I mean, he's a rookie quarterback throwing him the ball, so I could definitely see maybe not getting let off as much as he normally is used to, being able to get stopped short of his usual catch and run type plays.
How old is he? How old is Keenan Allen?
How old? Keenan Allen is. That's actually a good question.
If he is 30 or over, I would not put him in the top 12. I think that he is on his way down. I do. I think he's on his way down. And that has nothing to do with Herbert. I think Herbert's a great quarterback. I also have Herbert on my dynasty team. Yes, I drafted him his rookie season. I don't see Keenan Allen being the wide receiver he once was.
He is 29 years old, so not quite 30.
Right on the cut. When is his birthday, Andrew? When is his birthday?
When is Keenan?
What if it's tomorrow?
April 27th.
Damn. Okay, so he already turned 29 this year.
Yeah.
So he's got one more year. All
right.
I don't think he's going to be in the top 12. In fact, I would place a bet on this. I would place a future bet on this.
Oh, really? I would definitely think he's going to hit top 12 just because he's so consistent. I know he didn't hit.
He got a lot of touchdowns last year.
He did get a lot of touchdowns, but I see that happening again with Hunter Henry out of town. I definitely see that that's a possibility. Okay, number 9, AJ Brown. I feel like this one might be this will be interesting because he was only targeted 106 times. That's pretty low for PPR. Only caught 70. That's a 70%, catch rate.
He's a great wide receiver. He's
a freak athlete. He's phenomenally talented in his physical appearance, his speed, his size, all that. I mean, he's similar to DK, although nothing is like DK, but he's similar to him in physical attributes. And now you add Julio Jones to the mix. It makes you wonder how this is going to turn out. I think it's still going to be good for both of those wide receivers. Obviously, Julio's not in my top 12, but I'm curious how this will affect AJ Brown. I still think he will be wildly efficient.
That is an important note that you just said. You kind of said it kind of like sneakily. You don't have Julio Jones on this list.
Correct.
People listening to this, if you're expecting Julio Jones to be later in the list, he's not. Julio Jones, Andrew had him off the list. I don't know about that, Andrew. I really don't know about that. Julio, I've never been his biggest fan. However, top 12, Julio could. He's still a top 12 quarterback.
He could. He seriously could end up there. Don't get me wrong. If I had to bet my life, I do have him at 18 on my top 48 list. He's not like gone. He's a solid wide receiver 2 for your team. I don't know his ADP currently. I don't know where he's being drafted. I don't know if he's a value at the moment, but I can tell you that he is talented, and if he's healthy, he will be good for your fantasy team as long as you don't reach. But AJ Brown is still the one here. I think for sure, with his size, stature, the ability to hit the play action with Derrick Henry always opens things up. I like AJ Brown here.
AJ Brown's a freak. There's no doubt. I have no problem with this pick. In fact, I'd maybe even put him a little bit higher on the list. But going back to Julio Jones, because he's not on this list, so this is the only time we're going to be talking about him. Where would you draft Julio Jones? What round in your fantasy draft this year?
Me personally, depending on where I'm drafting, which space I'm drafting from, it matters a lot. If I'm like top 3 picks, I'm probably going to grab Julio in the 3rd or 4th round because my first pick is either going to be McCaffrey.
You think he goes that far?
Yeah, I do. Well, because you're going to get guys ahead of him. Like, I mean, Honestly, if I'm looking for a wide receiver 2 with upside, I'm like an absolute. This is the guy who I think will be a sleeper and has a chance to be a phenomenal asset for your team. I'm waiting until round 8 or 9, and I'm picking up Antonio Brown because he has every shot to be the top wide receiver there, as well as Godwin or Evans. He has just as good a shot as those guys, and you can get him in the 8th round. You're not spending a ton of capital. To me, Julio is, I mean, he's going to go because of name recognition. He's going to go in the 3rd, 4th. Like, he's not going to slip to the 5th.
No way. I just think that
if you get McCaffrey in the 1st, let it come back around, you're going to be picking wide receivers. Like, this is where you're going to be like, okay, are you comfortable taking Scary Terry to be your wide receiver 1? If you are, then he's probably going to fall to you at the beginning of or at the end of the 2nd, and then at the beginning of the 3rd, you can grab Julio. And then you got Scary Terry and Julio Jones with Christian McCaffrey as your starting blocks.
Honestly, damn, dude. The fact that you just said, are you comfortable with Scary Terry being your wide receiver 1? With him being in the top 12, that you have to be. If we're both in agreement that Scary Terry is in the top 12 for fantasy, you have to be comfortable with him being your number 1. And I don't know if I am.
Okay.
I don't know if I am.
That's the thing about fantasy. It's not just about what you what you feel about a player. There's a lot of numbers involved, because if you're playing a 12-man league and you're the 11th pick, you can say goodbye to Christian McCaffrey. Like, you are drafting a completely different game. You are not going to get Christian McCaffrey, Zeke, Dalvin Cook, Barkley. You are not going to get an elite running back. So you have to look at the wide receivers that you get for value. At 11, you're not going to even get Tyreek or Devontae Adams. You know what you're going to get at 11? You're going to get Travis Kelce at 11. And it used to not be a very popular strategy to take a tight end.
It is now.
People take tight ends in the 1st round now. Like, at the back half, you could get Travis Kelce at 11. And then when it comes back around and you're the 202 or 203, whatever you happen to be there, you get somebody like Calvin Ridley, or you get somebody like, you know what I mean?
Do you think Kelce, and we're getting a little off track here, but this is okay because this is important fantasy stuff. Do you think Kelce is the only tight end in the game worth picking in the 1st round?
Yes, he is the only tight end in the game worth picking 1st round. Now, I still think you could pick a tight end in the top 3 rounds. It's Kittle or Waller. I would not draft Waller at the moment until I know what the fuck's wrong with his ankle.
That's true. Has he practiced yet?
No, he has not yet. But it's the weekend, so it's time off. Right. I'm actually in a league. You're gonna say I'm fucking stupid. I'm in a league it's a 3 QB, 3 tight end, 6 flex spot league, and we're in a slow draft right now. My first round pick was George Kittle. Right before me, Travis Kelce went. He was gonna be my first round pick, but I picked George Kittle.
Well, that makes sense when it's so heavily,
Yeah, right. But I'm just saying, like, but to me, if Kittle, Waller, and Kelce would have been gone when it came to my pick, I wouldn't have even drafted a tight end. Even in that format, I wouldn't have even drafted a tight end until maybe the 6th round, just because I would have had to prioritize something different. Those are the only 3 tight ends that are 100%. These are the guys. There's some people in there who like Mark Andrews would be great in the format, but I can get him in the 5th round. Maybe somebody's going to reach for him at the 3rd, 4th round. That's totally fine. I'd grab a QB then, but I'm just like, there are weeks that Mark Andrews is not as heavily involved just because of the way their offense is run. Travis Kelce is always involved just because of the way their offense.
Yeah, I know.
So it's just,
but he's the Ravens' number 1 receiver.
He is the Ravens' number 1 receiver, which sometimes doesn't matter. So
no, sometimes it doesn't.
Okay. So number 8 on this list specifically is it's wonky. This was written a couple weeks ago. This is before like all the fallout with Michael Thomas. I had him at 8 because to me, this was about value, and what you were getting at the point in time when this article was written was Michael Thomas's talent in the 4th round was worth the risk, because the guys you're drafting in the 4th round are also kind of risky. Rounds 1 through 4 are typically the most risk averse. Like, you want to be as risk averse as possible moving up your draft board, right? Like, 1st round, whenever somebody's like, do I pick Zeke or do I pick Jonathan Taylor? It's always pick Zeke. He's his fantasy finishes, his floor is phenomenal. You want to avoid as much risk as possible with your most valuable pick. It just makes sense. That's why round 4 it's a little controversial. If you're risking something that you could be getting from Michael Thomas, it's tough. But if you get Michael Thomas in the 4th and he comes back after 6 weeks and he is Michael Thomas, you just got a steal that will help you win your whole league. So I want people to still be
but this article
aware.
isn't. I am totally on the same page as you. Michael Thomas could be a steal. A 100% could be. However, this article isn't the top 12 steals that you can get in your fantasy draft.
That's true.
It's the top 12 wide receivers. Who are you picking? Who should you pick? If there's no one, if these people are still on the board,
right,
it doesn't matter what round it is. You grab them because they're the 12 best, right? They're your wide receiver ones.
Sure.
Michael Thomas, at least for me, is not that guy. He's not that guy. There's too much risk involved with that pick,
right?
Specifically and honestly, for what you just said.
And I've come around to that as well. Like, apparently, news-wise, he's patched things up with Sean Payton. Good for him. Good for the Saints. Blah blah blah. Whatever. He's still going to be out because of a surgery. These are not, again, this is a past article. I have updated my ranking since. And once all my articles come out I've got a tight ends article coming out and a QB article coming out. When those do drop, I will also be releasing my top 200 list for all fantasy players. It'll be a page on the site. You'll be able to go. It'll get updated once or twice a week. I think that it will reflect Michael Thomas's value more appropriately there. But I knew we'd argue about this one, obviously, because I know you also don't think his talent is there because we haven't seen him play in a while, right?
I think, yeah. I mean, to get down straight to it, I don't know if his talent is the Michael Thomas from 2 years ago, right? Like, he sat out pretty much the entire last season. I know people who grabbed him in the first round, as you should have before, because people didn't have crystal balls thinking that he was going to sit out an entire season, basically. Listen, unfortunately, it is a what have you done for me lately type of thing. And I need to see him perform before putting him back on a top 12 list.
Yeah, and that's totally fair. I mean, fantasy is also, I talked about earlier, it's numbers and stuff, but it is a gut feeling too. I do a lot of drafting and a lot of analysis from my gut. I just watch a lot of tape. I watch a lot of football. Yeah, I like to dig into the numbers, obviously, because it's helpful. But sometimes you just watch a guy and you're like, that's insane. What I just saw was crazy. Hello. All right, we're back. I don't know what happened, but
we're back.
As you were saying, though, before, you want to be able to watch this guy play, yada, yada, yada. And you could, last year, obviously, no one had a crystal ball. We couldn't know. I had a league last year where my first pick was Saquon Barkley, and my second pick was, my first pick was Michael Thomas, and then I traded into the back of the second round, or the back of the first round, and I was able to grab. Oh my God, I'm butchering this. I drafted Barkley, traded the back of the first round, grabbed Michael Thomas. Those were my two guys that I was like, these are studs. I didn't have a second round pick though, because I traded it with a fourth round pick. So my depth was a little wonky, but obviously I did not win that league because both Barkley and Michael Thomas did not play all fucking year. So that was a total waste.
Right.
Okay. Pick number 7, DK Metcalf. He would, honestly, I would have him higher on this list if it were in the Seahawks game plan to throw as much as they are capable of throwing. They just don't.
I agree 100%. Yeah.
He's a freak. He is a specimen, a physical specimen. He is height, weight, wingspan, speed, all incredible. And he shows it every single time he's on the football field, day in, day out. But he had 129 targets, and that's pretty solid. But I just think that I can't guarantee that he's going to get that many again. So.
Yeah, specifically with DK Metcalf, he's a fucking freak. You mentioned it. He's super fucking fast. He's super big. He's just a fucking brick ass wall in Seattle.
Yeah.
I think number 7 is great. He had definitely games last year where he was the best wide receiver that week, but then he also had these dips where he didn't do much. He still racked up 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns, which is a fucking shit ton for any wide receiver in any season. But you're right. I don't know. Like, Seattle's offense is just a fucking Pandora's box or black box rather. I don't know what Pete Carroll's thinking. It's a fucking Pandora box. It's a fucking black box.
Dude, when they were letting Russ cook last year, I mean, it was sick. It was super fun to watch, but they want to get away from that. They want to go back to a more consistent run game. It is what it is. Number 6, we got Justin Jefferson, who is a sophomore in the league, rookie season. He broke the receiving yards record. He was a beast, and his partner,
he came out of nowhere. He came out of nowhere.
He did. Everyone was like, that draft class was so stacked with CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy, fucking Justin Jefferson. Like, these guys are all guys who are going to be number 1 receivers in the next 2 years. Like, just crazy the talent that was there. I can't believe how efficient he was, especially with Kirk Cousins. Now, I will say this. I think the numbers were a little inflated, only because it's Kirk Cousins, and their defense was the worst it has ever been under Zimmer ever. They were throwing way more than they ever would have liked to throw. They are a run-first team similar to Seattle. That doesn't mean that Justin Jefferson can't be efficient, because he is a phenomenal talent. And Kirk Cousins is not a bad quarterback. He gets a rap sometimes as like a game manager. He's better than a game manager, but he's not an all-star. He's not Patrick Mahomes. So he's
not an all-star. He's not a Pro Bowler.
Right. But some years he could be a Pro Bowler. When he played for Washington, there were years where I'd go, that dude has fucking got it.
You like that?
But I don't think
like that.
I don't think I haven't seen that when he's been in Minnesota, right?
It's because they have a bunch of mega churches. in Minnesota, and that's why he's not as good. But DC,
all right,
Washington, they didn't have a bunch of mega churches. They just have a bunch of capitals.
Number 5, we have Calvin Ridley.
Yes, Calvin Ridley.
Oh, I seem to have lost your video, but honestly, that's okay. I can still hear you. All right, so we got Calvin Ridley.
It says Andrew's video has been disabled due to internet quality issues. Their video is still being recorded, though.
Yeah, no, we're still recording video. I won't be able to see. But honestly, this is better. Hopefully, this will keep things moving along.
This is better Calvin because Ridley, I don't want to see your fucking face.
Exactly. Calvin Ridley, I have at number 5. He finished number 5 last year. At the beginning, the first 4 weeks of the season, he was the number 1 wide receiver. Julio's gone. Matt Ryan, I do not think is any worse than he has been. So, I mean, this is a total makes sense move to me. Calvin Ridley is a stud. 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns. I could definitely see a very similar season.
I don't know about Calvin Ridley, to be honest with you. I don't have a whole lot of confidence in Atlanta. I mean, one thing's for sure, they know how to fucking throw the ball with Matty Ice. I wouldn't. Yeah. What do you have him? Top 5? I would not put him at top 5. Top 5 is. I would have anybody that you just said: Justin Jefferson, DK Metcalf, not Michael Thomas,
really?
Or AJ Brown. I think belong in the top 5 over Calvin Ridley. I would bet that those 3 quarterbacks, I would bet at least one of those 3 quarterbacks does better than Calvin Ridley. Yes. That's what I meant. Not quarterbacks, wide receivers. One of those 3 wide receivers will do better than Calvin Ridley this year. I feel very confident about that.
Number 4, we've got DeAndre Hopkins. That's a really safe answer. Honestly, a lot of people have him at 2 or 3, which I think 2 is excessive. Dude, I think 2
I'd have him at 2. Here's what I'd do. Okay, wait. No, I forgot about Devontae Adams. Never mind.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, I've got not Tyreek. I'm sorry, DeAndre Hopkins at 4. He is a stud. That offense alone, will put almost any top tier wide receiver in the top 5. Just the way they pass the ball, the air raid offense. Kyler Murray is good. I love him at 4. We got Stephon Diggs at 3.
Stephon Diggs is great. I love Stephon Diggs. I have him in my dynasty. Traded what's his name? Todd Gurley for him. Traded the Century.
Yeah, you did. That's insane that happened that way. Like sometimes you do a fantasy trade and you're like, I robbed somebody at gunpoint. Like, and honestly, I didn't even have to use the gun. I told them I had a gun, and they're like, "All right, here's my 401k." So
yeah, exactly.
But have you ever had a fantasy trade though that you made, and then you're like, "I want to shoot myself because I fucked up really bad."
Oh, absolutely. In fact, more often than not, I want to shoot myself rather than I'm the one shooting the person for robbing them.
I have very few. I mean, like I have trades that I regret, but there are very few that are like shoot myself trades. And last year,
there's
when I was
one or two that come to mind.
Yeah, last year when I was like competing for the championship, I had Clyde Edwards-Helaire on my team, and the Chiefs just signed Le'Veon Bell, and I was like, I have to get Le'Veon Bell because I need the handcuff. And like Le'Veon Bell, I think still has talent. Turns out he doesn't. Le'Veon Bell's cooked. He's done.
That was a bad one.
But
the worst ones are the ones that you initiate. The worst ones are the ones that you initiate because you're like overthinking it too much. You're like, oh, I need this person or I need to fill this spot on my team. And then the other person gets it and they're like, yeah, I'll fucking accept that. That's a fucking great offer for me. And then you're like, oh shit, what have I done?
I gave up Cam Akers and a first round pick, which is just overpaying already. And I got Lev Bell and I think a second round pick, which the second round pick is whatever. Lev Bell was bad. Giving up Cam Akers was the biggest thing because he was going to be a total stud. The only saving grace is that he tore his Achilles, which is terrible. You never want that for somebody, but he tore his Achilles. Now I don't have to worry about it. I will never have to go back and be like, yeah, well. Okay, number 2, Davante Adams. A lot of people want him at 1. I'll tell you, I've got Tyreek at 1 specifically because of the Patrick Mahomes effect. As long as Patrick Mahomes is there, and they're both playing together, and they're on the Chiefs, and Andy Reid is the coach, I'm going to give that edge to Tyreek Hill. Because, yeah, he doesn't get the volume that Davante Adams does, which is usually a huge PPR thing. But he is so efficient and explosive that I will always trust that he will make a big play at least once a game.
Here's the thing. Patrick Mahomes has more options than Aaron Rodgers does in Green Bay. He's got the best tight end in the game with Kelsey, and he's got a bunch of speed demons, just like Tyreek. Tyreek is the fastest wide receiver in the game. I think we're really arguing over hairs here, but I think I would have Davante Adams at number 1. I think I'd even have Stephon Diggs at 2, Tyreek at 3. I'm fine with, honestly, now that I'm thinking about it more, I'm fine with Hopkins at 4.
Yeah, I mean, it's just when you get to the top, whatever, it's really tough. I mean, when you're talking 1 and 12, yeah, there's obviously there's going to be some gaps. When you're talking top 4,
there's a huge difference.
Right, yeah. But when you're talking top 4, top 3, it's like, yeah, maybe it's about preference. I mean, I will never, in the first round, as long as it's not like a defense or a kicker or a quarterback, I mean, if you've got a guy that you absolutely love and you know you can't get him in the next round, sometimes you have to reach. That's just what fantasy football is. If you like Travis Kelce as the first round, and instead of waiting until the 11th pick, and you're the 6th, I understand reaching for Travis Kelce. I get it. But it's because it's also supposed to be fun. Sometimes there are players that you just don't want on your team because it's not going to be fun for you. And,
no, exactly. Who's one of those players for you? Who's one of I kind of want to go through because I see at the end of your article, I actually missed this the first time I read it. There's a top 48 PPR. So I do want to do some special highlights. We'll do running backs probably in our next episode.
Yeah.
We'll focus primarily on wide receivers for this episode, and we'll make sure we put it in the title. But who is the least fun wide receiver that's good that comes to mind?
The least fun? Let me see here. I would say the least fun wide receiver to me to watch would be somebody like that's a good question. I think people like Corey Davis, like he's 43 on our list here. I think Corey Davis is kind of meh. He was especially like for his hype coming in. I think what's his name? Robert Woods is kind of a meh wide receiver. Like, he's a really good wide receiver and he'll be good for fantasy.
No.
Like,
Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp are two of the most electric wide receivers.
I don't know. I love them. I feel like Robert Woods is old. Robert Woods is so old. He feels old as hell.
I'll tell you, Amari Cooper's not fun. Amari Cooper's not fun.
He's wasn't fun when he was on
very
the Raiders.
Good. I still think he's not fun on the Cowboys. I just don't see. He's not fun. Like I'm always like, I don't know. He's not fun. He's not fun to have on your team.
I would say Adam Thielen, but Adam Thielen catches everything thrown to him in the red zone. It's insane. Like even last year, Adam Thielen, I want to say, had 8 or 9 touchdowns, and it was just and touchdowns are fucking sick. Touchdowns are cool.
I'm glad you brought him up. I'm glad you brought him up because I do want to talk about this top 48 list. If you go to the end of your article after the top 12 and you go down to the top 48, you have some. I want to highlight some because Adam Thielen at 23, I think is crazy.
It's just his age. I just like, he was injured. Well, you also have to remember there's other things here that like when you look up at take what I said earlier about their offense and how it's going to be a little less because their defense should be much better this year. So like let's say they are not throwing the ball let's say just on average they're throwing the ball 3 to 5 less times per game. That's just 3 to 5 less targets that could go his way. Justin Jefferson's going to be taking a step forward, right? So he's going to be the lead receiver. I mean, Adam Thielen is older. He's another year and he was injured a lot last year. I'm not saying that he can't be good. I'm just saying that there are guys that I would put ahead of him, guys who I would draft ahead of him. If I have Adam Thielen as my wide receiver 3, I would be very happy with that, as long as Justin Jefferson's not my 1. But I just am saying that, 22 feels right to me.
Claypool at 32. Justify that.
That's just because Big Ben is old. And
but he's on the BB8 diet.
I mean, you also think about you've got 3 wide receivers there in Juju, Deontay Johnson, and Chase Claypool, and there's a lot of mouths to feed there. And even if Claypool finishes higher than where he is on his list, his week to week is going to be all over the place. Like there are guys who finish at the top 7, top 8 spots in a position, but like it's because they had 3 weeks with 38 points and then 4 weeks with 12, like 2 points or something like that. They're just not consistent. They might win you a week, but they will lose you a week. Consistency is a huge factor in like fantasy football. You want to be able to predict what your guys are going to score. You'll have outliers, but like for Tyreek Hill for the longest time was this dude who would score you 1 billion points a week sometimes and then no points at all. And it would be really hard to draft a guy like that in the first round.
That's why I wouldn't put him as number 1. Exactly, because I still think he is that wide receiver that you just said.
For the last 2 years, though, his consistency rating is like one of the top in fantasy football. It's just Patrick Mahomes. I'm telling you, it's the Patrick Mahomes effect. That dude is nuts.
Okay, and then another wide receiver that I want to highlight is Odell Beckham at 29, because what a fall from grace.
So this is his last chance. For a lot of fantasy writers, myself included, fantasy players, he's been hurt. I get that. He got traded when he wanted out. He wanted out of the Giants. He is a talented wide receiver. He is. You're in the NFL. A lot of these guys are talented wide receivers, but I have to wonder if his mental is there. Andrew Luck said it best. It takes so much out of you to be hurt as much as he was hurt, because the rehab, the coming back to play the sport, all these guys love football. That's what it is. But to be hurt like that over and over, have to do the rehab and shit, it's just a lot. And I don't know if he can come back from it. If he can, though, his current ADP is a steal. Like wherever you're getting him right now, he could be, even at his floor, to me, if on a good season from Odell, is like, a wide receiver 2 on your fantasy team. And you would be happy to draft him where he's being drafted. So,
I agree with that. He's kind of a fall from grace since in Cleveland. Him and Juice Jarvis-Landry. They're both.
He's electric.
You have him at 40.
Yeah, I know, but he's like, he's just because like he's always going to get targets and he's always going to catch the ball, but he's never been a top guy almost anywhere he's been. Even when he was on the Dolphins, he wasn't the number 1 guy. He's a PPR specific wide receiver who, again, at his current ADP, you're going to be very happy with what you get from Jarvis-Landry. But I don't know if I'm targeting him in any drafts. I mean, if he falls to me at a steal, maybe, but.
Who do you think is the biggest mover on this list? Who do you think has the opportunity to move the most on this list, whether up or down? Maybe like Tyreek Hill moves to number 40 after this season, barring injuries. I'm not talking about injuries. I'm talking about just performance on the field. Who do you think is the biggest mover on this list?
I think that there are legitimate arguments to be made for Marquise Brown moving up in the list if he can take that step to be a solid wide receiver. I think Antonio Brown, I already talked about him just because of who he is. If he still has it, it's Tom Brady. I mean, all those guys have a shot. And then I think CeeDee Lamb, even Michael Gallup is kind of low on here. And the reason being is just because CeeDee Lamb Michael Gallup would be a 1 if he went to like the Ravens, or if he went to like if he went to the
He makes
Browns,
some great plays, man.
He seriously does. He's crazy athletic. But he's not. He's with Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb, who are also very good wide receivers. And I was just going to say, Gallup could take a step forward, but it's going to be really hard for Dak, fantasy-wise, to maintain CeeDee Lamb as a top wide receiver, Amari Cooper as a top wide receiver, and Gallup as a top wide receiver. Like, you just never see that. And I was going to say, I think CeeDee Lamb, I have him at 15. He very well could be the number 1 wide receiver. If things go his way, he is that talented. I wouldn't bet it, but I'm just, as I look at my list, I think that there is a shot that could happen.
I think it could happen too, but Dak has to come back stronger than ever this year.
He's getting another MRI on his shoulder, and they're like, don't worry. Everything's fine. Don't worry.
Yep.
And everyone on Twitter saw that tweet came through from Dallas, and they're like, well, I wasn't worried until you told me not to worry about it. So now I know.
Well, exactly. Oh, man.
I think that's it. This is longer than I would think we were both expecting it to be, but do you have anything you want to add?
When we start talking fantasy, when we start talking NFL, it's hard not to talk. It's hard not to go down some of these rabbit holes. We'll save running backs for our next episode because I'm sure we're going to go into just as many rabbit holes.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's it for me.
I posted the running backs one on Reddit, and I had a lot of people upset about some of those rankings. So I'm
sure we're going to have a lot to talk about.
All right. I think grapefruit.
Grapefruit time. Bring in the grapefruit dancers.
Normally, you can only get this technique in one of my classes, but I wanted to share this with you because I believe every man should get grapefruited. When you grapefruit your man, it's going to feel as if you are giving him head and fucking him at the same time.
Every time I come around your city, bling, bling. Every time I come around your city, bling, bling. Every time I come around your city, bling, bling. Every time I come around your city, bling, bling. Every time I come around your city, bling, bling. Every time I come around your city, bling, bling.
Valentino Summers and Wave Runners. Chains on my niggas like slave runners. Drug dealers anonymous. Valentino Summers and Wave Runners. Chains on my niggas like slave runners. Drug dealers anonymous. How many Madonnas can that Mazda fit? My brick talk is more than obvious. It's ominous. Garage is the phantom. Ghouls, ghosts, and goblins. Blonde mohawk the collection. I'm Dennis Rodman.
No better feeling would he ever get than being grapefruited. No better feeling would he ever get than
every time I come around your city, bling, bling. Every time I come around your city, bling, bling. Every time I come around your city, bling, bling. Every time I come around your city, bling, bling. Every time I come around your city, bling, bling. Every time I come around your city, bling, bling.
Time to hit the showers because baths are for babies.